Since this is a new year, I put this into the chat, but I thought one of the reasons that my pals, Tina at North Forge and Juliet at New Media Manitoba and Margot from Tech Manitoba and myself, Jessica, one of the reasons this meetup was formed in the first place was really to be a place of belonging and support for women in tech because they are such a minority. So one of the reasons why I want us to state goals or put an intention for the year or a word for the year into the chat is I just want lots of thumbs up and applause from everybody else so that you really do know that you're in a supportive environment, that this is a place to come so that you can feel that you belong. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier just before we got started, that our meetup group has grown to over 750 members. So yay us, yay all of us for sharing information about this event and for being great supports for each other. We are a non-profit, gender inclusive organization, and this is a safe space. And we wanted to make sure that you all know that and feel that. Before we go any further, I want to respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting virtually on the ancestral lands of Treaty 1 territory, the traditional gathering place of Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, Dene, and the traditional homeland of the Red River Métis people. I want to also let you know, I think we've got it in the chat. If we don't, we'll drop into the chat the code of conduct. And you could read through the code of conduct. We encourage you to do that. But basically, it all boils down to be kind and support each other. So if you default to being kind, you've got the code of conduct nailed. We also wanted to let you know that we regularly survey our members because we want to make sure this event is being held it's usually held the third Wednesday of every month. We're holding ours over the lunch hour, but sometimes it's in the evening. Sometimes it's a breakfast. We want to mix it up a little bit to make sure that as many individuals as possible can attend. So we want to hear from you, what time of day, what topics, what speakers that you would like to hear from. So please take a minute to fill out the survey. We'll bring it up. We'll have a link to it at the end of the presentation. The other thing that we want to give a big shout out to is all of the, I'm looking here at everybody that's in attendance. And again, I'm really thrilled. We got 70 people here right now. It's awesome. Great way to kick off the year. We're very fortunate to have Manitoba Women in Tech ambassadors. And these are our awesome volunteers. And we love you volunteers. Thank you for being here. They've spread out around various tables. They are there to support you. I think most of them put the word ambassador right in their title. So if you see that word, those are individuals that can help you if you're trying to navigate Remo, if you're brand new to it, or if you've got some questions or they're just catalysts for conversation. Actually, I forgot to mention to you that if you are new to Remo, we do have a great little explainer video that you can check on. And when we go back to the networking floor, it says right there, learn about Remo. So just click on that and you can read through the video. All right, I don't know if I covered all the things that I'm supposed to cover. I think that I did. I think that's kind of it. Oh, here we go. Jessica just put it into the chat, new to Remo. So if you need a little tutorial, just click on that. It's just a couple of minutes long and you see all the very friendly Tech Manitoba staff smiling and waving because we are the models in that explainer video. So I want to jump right into our panel. I want to hop into introducing the guest panelists who are going to be speaking on pathways to success in tech, achieving positive movement in your career. Our panel is made up of accomplished individuals who have facilitated their own movement in career, or they've helped facilitate career transitions for others. All of our panelists happen to work at SkipTheDishes, or Just Eat Takeaways, it's also known, which is a Tech Manitoba member. Thank you for being members. And we couldn't be more thrilled to have each of you here today to learn a little bit, make sure that as you're listening, if questions come to mind, that you put them into the chat. You can either put them in the Q&A or right into the chat. And because we will leave space for you to, for the panel to answer some questions once we get to the end. I would like to now introduce our panel moderator, who is Hailey Kowalson. And I have to admit, I'm a very big Hailey Kowalson fan because she probably is the most reliably enthusiastic individual that you ever come across. And she has a really big heart for women in tech and for youth in tech. She currently is the Recruitment Partnerships Coordinator with the Talent Acquisition Team, facilitating early talent opportunities through partnerships with colleges, universities, nonprofits, and education streams. And in her free time, Hailey enjoys cooking, spending time with her 3 sisters, and is a self-proclaimed coffee fanatic. So Hailey, why don't you turn on your camera, turn on your mic, and join me on stage. There you are.
Absolutely. Right. Thank you so much.
Nice to see you. I'm going to jump off.
Sounds great. Well, thank you.
Turn it off too.
Always a pleasure to participate. It is a great opportunity for us to be able to come here and share our expertise and our experiences with so many other women looking to grow their career paths in technology. So again, my name is Hailey Kowalson. I am the Recruitment Partnerships Coordinator with SkipTheDishes. I really enjoy that ability to grow our talent streams and to invest in those talent streams to make sure that we have a wealthy and diverse pipeline of talent that we're able to bring into the organization. But what I want to do here is, before we jump into the panel, have each of our panelists join us and introduce themselves. So I would first like to introduce or welcome Carol to the screen to introduce herself. And Carol, can you share with us your name, your role, and why you pursued a career in technology?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Hailey. So again, my name is Carol Sarzi. I'm the lead product manager within Skip here, overseeing a portion of our restaurant pillar where we build products to our restaurant partners. How do I end up in product? It's a kind of funny story. I don't have a technical background. I didn't went to school to learn about technology or so on. Actually, fun fact, I have a degree in oceanography. Yes, very different. And I never worked with anything related to the oceans anyway. And I started my career as a planning analyst in a manufacturer. After that, I decided that it was time for accepting a public opportunity to work for the government. And I sincerely hate it. Very, very much hate it. In 3 months, I had enough of that, and I was looking for new opportunities, and a friend of mine referred me to her on her company, and I ended up in product. This is how I started. So it was like a unfortunate decision that I made, or a very wrong decision that I made to pursue a career that was not for me, that brought me to the product. That's something that I really love, and here I am.
Well, thank you, Carol, for sharing. We are so happy to have you here with our panel today. And it's just a great example of how any type of experience or education can bring you to a career in tech. Next, I'd like to welcome Jess Hall to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about why she pursued a career facing technology, or in technology as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jess Hall. My job title is Senior Director Delivery. What that means is I lead the global delivery function for Just Eat Takeaway product and tech, which includes SkipTheDishes. Why did I pursue a role in technology is a great question. Because I also kind of fell into this role. I did a little bit of technical, but mainly business background. And I love solving problems. And I started my career in business analysis and solving problems, and I loved it, and I've never left the industry since. So yeah, thank you for having me on the panel today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Jess, for participating. I can't wait to dig a little bit more into how you really built your career that you have here. I'd like to next welcome Amber. If you could come to the stage and tell us a little bit about why you pursued a career that is tech-facing.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amber O'Donnell. I am a Senior Talent Acquisition Specialist for Product and Technology here at SkipTheDishes. I've been with SkipTheDishes for a year, this upcoming February. And the reason why I pursued a career in tech is because no day is ever the same. And just the amount of autonomy in the tech sector is just a big arena to continue to learn and grow in the field, because things are always changing and we're always pivoting and adapting. And so being able to marry HR with product and technology has brought me here today. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks again, Amber, for participating. And I'm really excited to see how that marriage of HR and tech really helps build the stage for women in this industry. And Rob, if you would join us now on stage and tell us a little bit about why you pursued a career in tech, that would be great.
Finally on. Sorry, my screen glitched there coming in. So yeah, my name's Rob Stewart. I'm the Director of Engineering at SkipTheDishes. I've been here for about 3.5 years, based in Winnipeg. And how I got into technology. So I knew from an early age I'd probably be in technology. My aptitude in school had math and science and things like that. I didn't know I'd be in software development though until I was well into my university career. I was in engineering originally, and I changed into software development because I realized that some of the passions that I saw in my peers in engineering, like measuring the tensile strength of concrete, was something that I enjoyed a whole lot. So I had the good fortune to recognize that and also be at the right place and the right time. I mean, software development was exploding at that point. I've worked in California. I'm from Southern Ontario, went to University of Waterloo, so I've been exposed to a lot of different technology companies as well as technology people, and I've really enjoyed the choice that I did make to get into here, because I think it did offer the best of both worlds in terms of having a rewarding career and having a fruitful career. So I'm really happy with that and excited to be talking today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you also, Rob, for participating at this point. I would love for all of the panelists to join us on stage as we get into the discussions on how to really build those pathways in technology. All right, there it is. We've got all 5 of us on stage. So thank you all once more for participating, and let's get right into it. So I do want to start with one of my favorite questions to ask in this arena, and that is about a success story in your career. What built to that success, and how did you build on that momentum? And I'd like to first open this question to Carol and to Jess. I know, Carol, you took us a little bit through your career path and how you got here. Can you tell us a little bit about the successes in your career that keep you engaged in this field?
Absolutely. Thank you, Hailey. I will start to saying that the career that I have is a success for itself because, again, I don't have a technical background as I start introducing myself, but over the years, I fell in love with the area that I am, that is product, and I pursue a career that we have to be realistic. Today, it is a very male-dominant environment, but regardless, and I have to be clear, it is very challenging, but when you face the challenges, when you put yourself up there, you have the courage to show yourself and work through your passion, it is possible to pursue and to have a great career. I'm very proud to be where I am. I think that is a very successful story anyway. So I'd like to share, not to tell about myself, but to tell all the women out there that it's possible to have a career in tech for us, regardless the environment that we have to face. Well, I could share stories of having a very great product delivered as well. I went through very successful product deployments where the product development side was brilliant. So since ideation to the implementation, everything went according to the plan. Of course, that we work agile, so every time we have to self-correct a few things, think twice about decisions already made, communicating a few struggles here and there, but it was successful. We had a brilliant recognition of the public that it was a brilliant product, everybody engaged. But I do think it is throughout very hard moments that we have our successful stories. fingerprinted on us. So I would like to share moments where things went wrong, very wrong. And this happens quite often. So it's not because maybe you guys use SkipTheDishes application, you saw the beautiful product we have there that is all colorful and nice stuff that we do. Actually, we make mistakes all the time. And it's throughout the mistakes that we actually learn and have best interactions with our customers, learn from them, and how to engage our teams, bringing everybody together to work towards a one goal that I think that it is most important things to learn. And not extending too much, we had an issue a couple of years ago. Rob was there, helped me out with that too. It was even public after things went to the media, and we had to work very close together to solve the issue, to put ourselves working together. It was not time to put anybody against the walls and say, this is your fault or not. It was time to come together as a team, as a company, to put ourselves, to understand what was the impacts we were causing in our customers' life. That was wrong, it was very wrong. And how I maintained the moment was to work hard, but most of all, listen to my team. So work together as much as we could to identify scenarios, to validate the risks we were going through, how to communicate to the stakeholders what we were doing is the right thing, and we're going to have the outcomes that we were expecting. And I thought at the time, I put myself in a place that I was the one that was handling on the problem and was the face to the team. And it worked. I think it worked really well. We had the success. We worked through the problem quite fast. Everybody was together because we understood what was there and what we need to do. And it was really good to see that in a short term, it was about 2 or 3 weeks, we fixed the problem and convert all the issues in the public media and all the chaos that was at the time in a very successful story. And to extend a little bit more, now as a leader, the most successful part of my day-to-day is to see my team succeed and how they can level up and do brilliant stuff. It is what I consider success in my day-to-day now.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Carol, for that. You shared so many different things and so many aspects of what you can consider success and what you do consider success. And I think those different perspectives are really important for us all to keep in mind, especially when the going gets tough, really leaning on our peers and leaning on our teammates to create success out of maybe mistakes or out of issues. That's really important. So it's great to hear about that. So I would like to see, Carol, I know you mentioned being able to move up and looking forward to seeing success in your team, and their success is now your success. And I'd like to pose the question to Amber and Rob now to split the script a little bit and say, what advice would you have for somebody to move up or within technology? How would you recommend that they capitalize on that success to create that forward movement?
For sure. Well, being in talent acquisition, seeing resumes and different skill sets and getting to interact with different people in the market looking to either get into the market or advance their careers, I would probably suggest, finding a mentor in your local community, someone who you can learn and grow from. There's a lot of women out there who are wanting to share their knowledge and lift other women up and help support them in discovering their full potential. So that mentorship is definitely key, I would say. And not to be intimidated. Some women feel reluctant to enter technology careers because they're afraid that they don't have enough technology knowledge. So I'd probably just advise, don't be intimidated. Teach yourself new technologies. As we know, it's always changing and scaling up. So, being active in tech communities, local meetup groups such as this, different Slack communities as well. Those are great places to bounce ideas off of, learn different forums. And last but not least, my advice would be an advocate for yourself. Know your worth. Don't be scared to speak up and, apply for that promotion. What's the worst that's going to happen, right? You get the job or you don't, right? So I would have to say that would be my advice.
It's great advice, Amber. Thank you. Rob, what are your thoughts as well?
Yeah, very similar. And I love the confidence one. I think that's a big differentiator in your career growth. Things that help you build confidence, make sure that it's something you're passionate about. Tech is a very broad community, and find an area of it that you actually enjoy doing. I don't know how many interviews I've sat through where somebody has spent a lot of money and time in school and they talk about wanting to be in technology, but they don't actually exist in the technology environment. They've taken the courses, they've taken the classes, and they're hoping to get jobs. But you're going to be competing with people who are passionate. So explore, as Amber pointed out, learn different technologies, learn different roles within technology. That mentor approach is a good approach as well. Also remember, particularly in software development, define yourself by the experiences you're gaining as you go through that. All too often I see, particularly software developers, that sort of define themselves by the language they program in or the tool that they built. And the real beauty of software development and technology in general is it's constantly evolving, moving, and what you bring to the table is those experiences. And that puts you on par with everybody else. You should take confidence in that because you've gone through those experiences and you can now take that knowledge. And learn the tools of the trade, as you pointed out. So not just the technologies, but also how do people use those technologies in the field? How do companies manage their systems? So in software, what's your software development process? How do you go through that? Those are really hard to teach, and they'll give you a leg up, I think, when you're looking at moving into technology for those areas.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rob. And we'll get into those like soft and hard skills that are going to be really beneficial as well a little bit later. But you both touched on confidence and self-advocation, and knowing your worth, being confident, kind of finding that within yourself can be an intimidating and difficult road to walk. I'd like to open to the group. Do you have advice on how to advocate for yourself in the workplace, whether it's for pay raises, additional responsibilities, anything that really could be a great stepping stone to career advancement? How do you build the skills, or how do you get the courage to say, hey, that's me, that's something that I want to do? So please, I would like to make it free for anybody to jump in and to say what you think in terms of building that confidence for self-advocation.
So I think this is a really tough. So that's the first thing I would say. Like, if you feel intimidated or worried about advocating for yourself, that's completely normal. And even now, I still have those moments where I question if I'm asking for the right thing or am I asking for too much. That's not a good thing, but I want to share it with you because that's the reality. And a lot of people will look at my career and think, well, I must know what I'm doing and I must be super confident because I've got this big job and I'm telling people what to do, or asking them rather to do things for me. But it's still there. So it's normal. I also would say just have a bit of a game plan. So think about what it is you really want. Sometimes that conversation will be about money or role title, but don't forget to ask for things like personal development, education, growth, and other soft skills or things around your job which will help you develop and make the next move. And I guess my last piece of advice on this before the rest of the panel jump in would be, think about where you want your career to go. It doesn't need to go in a straight line. Rob kind of talked a little bit about that with, enjoy what you do and think about the experiences that you're gaining. Just because you start on one path doesn't mean you have to continue on it. So have an idea about where you might want to go. And then every opportunity or every time you have the chance to go into one of those negotiations or advocate for yourself, be clear that you're advocating for something that takes you on that journey that you want to go for. Only you know the answer to that. It could be a sideways move, and that's for you to decide. But as long as you're making that decision with your own goals in mind, that's what's important. And that's my best advice. But it is normal. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Jess. Does anybody else want to jump in with additional advice? Rob?
Yeah. So for me, I think a couple of things when you're advocating for yourself. Learn to understand the difference between doing things right and doing the right things. All too often, companies will focus on a procedure or process, and that may not be the best And if you understand what the right thing to do is, you can put yourself ahead in terms of advocating for yourself. And if you ground yourself in the right things instead of just doing things right, you'll always find your career growing, because that. And the other thing is, be parts of both sides of the equation. It's very easy to find problems and issues with what's going on and raise them. But to advocate for yourself, what you really need to do is bring solutions to the table and saying, anybody can complain about something. It's harder to articulate it in a way that makes sense for the business. And it's even harder to come to the table saying, here's how I think we could solve this. And that is a great way of getting recognized and getting opportunities and getting into roles that will help you be more of a leader. And it also builds your confidence, because as you start to realize you actually are grounded in the right thing and it's a good thing to do, and then you start advocating for that, it can make a difference in your career.
Thank you so much, Rob. That's something that I'm really enjoying. I love what you said there about do the right thing, not do things right. Really keep in mind of what's the best way to do things and provide that solution first mentality. So that's really helpful, and I think can help a lot of the group here when they're really looking forward to and defining that path. Whether it goes in that linear progression or you jump side to side, like Jess was mentioning as well. And so now I want to circle back to some of those previous points that you and Amber had made about those soft and hard skills. What soft skills helped you to grow in your career path? And can you note any soft skills, I think this part is more towards Amber, that are in high demand in the market right now when you're looking to grow your career?
Yeah, most definitely. Thanks, Hailey. I would probably say, first and foremost, communication, now more than ever. As we continue to navigate this COVID-19 landscape, we find ourselves working remotely. So really utilizing proper communication channels and tools. I know where we work here, we're Slack focused. Just really understanding and how to prioritize communication with your teams is definitely paramount for growth. I think also too, another big thing is problem solving abilities are key for the tech sector. So, we get challenged with different problems that come throughout the day. It's really key that we can articulate and be analytical on focusing and finding the solutions to problems as they arise. So adapting, pivoting, thinking on our feet, what can we do? Looking at problems in different angles. And last but not least, is being organized. It definitely does make you more efficient and productive at work. IT is very dynamic, giving you opportunity to jump around on several projects and tasks, so multitasking can also be an important skill within that. It's key to keep track of your schedule, daily tasks. I know myself, I have a multitude of different tools that I like to use to keep organized, whether it's Asana or if I'm using OneNote, that time management and organization skills are high up there on the soft skills, especially with tight deadlines, different tasks, and so those would probably be my top three: communication, problem solving, and organization. Okay, 4, time management.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amber. Rob, do you want to jump in at least a little bit as well from a management perspective? What do you see in terms of soft skills from your side that are growing in the market?
Yeah, definitely soft skills are more and more important. One, it's a very large market now, and it's definitely a seller's market. If you're in technology and you're looking for a job, you have a great opportunity to write your own ticket in many senses. So for me, open, honest transparency within the manager approaches is vital. I think that those skills bring respect and trust, and I think we can't sort of overemphasize that enough. And then the parts that Amber had mentioned as well are definitely when you're looking to get a new job or move into a role, bringing that sort of discipline. Try and think of somebody who you admire and what their skills are, and that's probably what you want as well, because you're looking, when you're trying to apply for a new role or move, you're really trying to make somebody admire you. So organize, being organized, being competent, knowledgeable, fluent, those are all important things, but they are the consequences of some basic habits you can build of being organized and being aware, listening, not just hearing what somebody's saying, but actually listening to what they're saying and things like that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rob. That's very, it's very insightful. I would like to pick up on one of those things you said that I've also heard a couple other mentions of through our panel so far this morning, and that is find somebody you admire, some notes towards mentorship. And I know that these types of conversations and that level of peer-to-peer learning is something that's really important to Jess. So I'd like to open the floor to you. And can you give us your thoughts on mentorship in the workplace, and or any advice on seeking mentorship or what that means to you?
Yes, I can. This is one of my most favoritist specialist subjects that I could probably do a whole hour on, so I'll try not to. But what I want to talk about here is not just mentoring, but actually sponsorship. So mentoring is brilliant. It's a mentor has knowledge that they are willing to share with you, but a sponsor has power that they are willing to use for you. And that is a really key difference. I will talk about sponsorship a little bit more in a minute. Both things have their place. Mentorship, especially if you're starting out in your career, finding somebody who has the skills you want or is operating in the space that you want to be in, go and talk to them. A mentoring relationship can be like an informal coffee every now and then, to a sort of dedicated hour every month where you have an agenda. It depends what works for you. It depends on what works for that person. But in my experience, most people are flattered to be asked to mentor you. So don't feel nervous about asking people. They are going to love the fact that you asked them. So my best advice to finding a mentor is just to go and ask the people. Sometimes they will be too busy, but more often than not, they will be able to connect you with somebody else. And it's a really incredibly valuable way of gaining knowledge and experience. But the reason that I talk about sponsorship is because women in particular and other minority groups tend to be over-mentored and under-sponsored. So there's lots, and actually probably a number of you will have access to women's mentoring programs through your work and things like that. So this is a bit of a plea to all of you here who actually have some power. Maybe you're a hiring manager, maybe you can influence decisions about who does what project or what work goes to people, or maybe you can influence hiring, even if you're not the hiring manager. Because using your power to help other women get up the ladder is what helps women to get up the ladder. Mentoring requires us all to do the work and get there ourselves, and there's a place for that. But sponsorship is what makes a difference. There are loads and loads of studies. Go and have a look after the event about what the difference is. And if you have some of that power, great to spread it around. It's not, you know, putting everything on the line. It starts with mentoring. Maybe the next level is kind of strategizing. So I might share some insider information with somebody about things that are happening in the organization, which will help them to kind of connect some dots and make some better decisions. That's one version of sponsoring somebody. Maybe the next level is connecting. I think you've got potential. I'm going to connect you with some influential people in my network or in this business to help you kind of make some connections and get a bit of time with someone who also has influence. And finally reaching up to being, you know, an opportunity giver or an advocate. I'm going to give you a piece of work because I trust you, and I'm going to help you be successful, and then I'm going to advocate for you in public. That is the thing that does make the difference. And I know there are some men in the audience, and obviously Rob is here as well. Men are really good at sponsoring each other because we all, not just men, all of us have a tendency for affinity bias. We see people who are like us, and we are more likely to assume that they're going to be successful in the role that we've been doing, or they remind us of us at a younger age or as we came through our career. And so unconsciously, we put additional merit in that. And that is why some of these things perpetuate where, you know, we don't have a very balanced workforce. We tend to have more men because there are more men in powerful positions helping other men to get through. Nobody is doing anything wrong. No one is doing it consciously. But my challenge to all of you here today is, can you sponsor in some way the women in your organization or the women that you work with, because that is the thing that will make a difference. And I personally have been the receiver of sponsorship, and it was transformational for my confidence and my career. And I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't been lucky enough to get that that sponsorship. So in your hands is the power to do that. And if there's one thing that you take away from today, I would love it to be that you understand about sponsorship and you make that change for people. And that ends my sermon on sponsorship, because otherwise I'll keep going for another half an hour. Hailey.
Well, thank you, Jess. That's very, it's empowering knowledge, and it's helpful to see that challenge to empowerment, to help to empower other women to really see that same career growth and use that power that we have to be able to bring other women up with us. It keeps on that same theme of what Rob said about doing the right thing and not just doing the thing right. And I think that's really, again, that's, I think, going to maybe become the common speak as we kind of round out this session. But I've got a couple questions that are going to pivot, I think, a little bit. And I think one of the areas where women don't feel as supported or maybe as well sponsored is when they're returning to work after leave. I know right now in Canada, we do have parental leave for parents of multiple genders, but it's statistically or historically been a lot more difficult for women when they have to consider returning to work after parental leave. Do they return to work, and what does that process look like? I'd like to open it up to talk about what does it look like to return to work, and how can organizations or leaders sponsor their female returners or their returners after parental leave to regain that ground and that success in their pathway as they continue to work or rejoin the workforce. So I'd like to open that up right now.
So I'm going to go again. Sorry, you might all be bored of voice, but I have 2 young children. I have 2 boys, aged 4 and 6. So I have done the return to work. But I would, before I say anything, like to say, I think this applies to, you know, bereavement. If you have unfortunately had other really sad and life-changing experiences like baby loss, if you're going through menopause, there are a whole load of different reasons why you might take time out of the workforce, or you may not be able to perform full-time, or, you know, whatever it is. So these tips that I'm going to give, they're what I learned from being on maternity leave, but I would be remiss to say that that's the only time when these sorts of things apply. And being a parent is a choice that I have been fortunate enough to be able to make. And I know that it's quite a hard topic for a lot of people. So yeah, just a little trigger warning before I go any further. So my best advice is to be as organized as you possibly can and to make your life easy. So think about all the things around going to work that you can either get rid of. If you are fortunate enough to be able to afford to have somebody to clean your house, then get the person to clean your house. It doesn't have to be forever. Just make life easier. I'm going to show a little bit of my personality here. I did meal plans for 3 months at a time when I returned to work, so that with a shopping list every week and the recipes photocopied from the book all in a folder, so that every day I just opened the page and did what it said on the page. I didn't have to have any mental energy expended on what I had to buy at the grocery store and what I was going to make for my family. I had a conversation with my husband about the fact that I needed additional support when I returned, because I was going to get used to this whole new way of working, and that I needed him to step up and do stuff. By the way, he does all the washing and ironing, so although I do the cooking, he does his bit. Find groups that you identify with and do that before you return. So maybe there's you know, a tech maternity or returning women group online or in your local area. You know, find those kindred spirits, because often the people who are maybe a couple of months ahead, maybe 6 months ahead of you, they have the best advice because it's fresh in their mind and they've reflected. Do not worry about perfection. Do not worry about making mistakes. It is a massively light. And I'll tell you, after my first maternity leave, returned to a company that I'd been at for nearly 10 years. After my second, I left and went to another business entirely. You may as well have left. You may know the people who are there, but so much changes so fast and it's very hard for people to explain it. So don't expect to know how things work. Just leverage your network, ask questions, don't be afraid. And like I said, just make life around you as easy as possible. Do not put any pressure on yourself to be perfect. In the interest of full disclosure, in recent months, I accidentally left my son without anyone to pick him up from school because I got the dates wrong for his Spanish club, and I was in Berlin in Germany, so I couldn't even rush to get him. I have had days where I've had to do pre-pandemic meetings with a sick child on my lap. I've done interviews with a baby when I was trying to get a job after my second child, with a baby literally screaming. And I'm still here, I've survived, and I still have a great job. And so just don't put the pressure on to be perfect. We are really bad about doing that as women. So that's my best advice.
Thank you, Jess. Does anybody else in the group have advice for returning to work after leave?
Yeah, I am a mom of 2 kids as well. So my kids are 6 and 8. I went for the process of leaving and come back twice as well. And I would like just to, most of the things that I would like to give as a tip is just echoing Jess, so I wouldn't do that. But in response maybe to the leadership, the women coming back, they need support. They need sometimes the feedback that they are doing a good job, even coming back. Excuse me. Because yes, we are trying to be superheroes, because as a standard, we are not admitting to do less than what we were supposed to do, or in both sides. Then family-wise, we would like to be the best mom in the world, having everything set up for the baby to be successful, to be the kid to have the best life ever. In the same in the workspace, we want to be the best professional that it is out there, and we are like asking that for us every single day. So the pressure that we are putting ourselves is too much sometimes, and it comes from the leadership, the support to say that we are doing a good job, that you have the time to deliver upon what it's asking for you, that you have the time to learn again all the business that you lost for some time, the growth, everything that is in there. So it is important to offer the support, to be there to talk through this time, especially in the I don't know, first month, I guess, that we are trying to accommodate new life, trying to get our place again that we left. So the support from the company and leaders is very important in this coming back as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Carol. Jess, I noticed you came off mute, so if you wanted to add one more thing, and then I have a last question.
I just looked down at my notes and I realized I forgot an important point, which is, it is okay to want to have a career, to want to be at work full time, to feel that your identity is partly driven by what you do. I do work full time, and I'm very happy with that. But you know, don't let other people make judgments about whether that's okay, and find time for yourself. If that, you know, for me, part of that is being at work and having a job that I love and enjoy and a purpose to that. Society sometimes has us believe that we should put our children above everything else, which might sound a bit controversial. I love my children dearly and I want them to be successful and happy. Of course I do. But I know for that to happen, I also need to be successful and happy in the ways that I define that. And part of that for me is about having a job that I enjoy. So that's just my other piece. Like, don't let society tell you what makes you happy or what makes you tick. You know that for yourself, and hold on to it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you so much, Jess. I just have one more question before we go to Q&A, and I want to pose this question towards Amber and towards Rob. We've heard a lot about what organizations can do, especially from Carol, on supporting the need for support for women after they return from leave. What can organizations do as a whole from a leadership perspective to become a more female-friendly environment?
Yeah, thank you for that, Hailey. So definitely, I think organizing like monthly meetups for women in your organization. So it really helps to create like a women-friendly culture at your workplace. I know here we have a Slack channel within our company for women in tech. So having that engaged group where we share a variety of different things. So everyone kind of feels included. Also, to see different job postings, internal job postings as well in that Slack channel. We also like to, demonstrate. Like I think demonstrating gender diversity is a high priority. I think that's what a lot of organizations can do to be more women friendly. And following it up with, that aftercare after they set out how they're going to do that, right? What's the aftercare? Checking in with how the program's going, so on and so forth, or the measures that they put in place. Offering training to acknowledge and disrupt, implicit bias. So that's also another thing that organizations can do. I know in my role here, I get to create gender diverse job descriptions. So I use a tool called Textio. It's very similar to Grammarly. So for those of you who are aware of that tool, this Textio tool, it really helps you to write inclusive job descriptions to remove unconscious bias. To harbor diversity and inclusion to the applicant pool. It even gives you a scale rating of how this is going to include females. If it's like a 63%, I'm going to go back and rewrite the job description so that everybody feels included when they're reading that job description or feels empowered to apply for that position. So those are just a few things that I feel that, organizations could do to become more women friendly, and some of the things that I currently get to do to be a part of that, and ensuring it's a high priority. So
I think for me, if you're going to become a carpenter and build a desk, you really need to understand the tools and how to do that. And I think the same thing applies to managers. We need to educate ourselves in the problem as well as the solutions and how to apply them. So as a leader, one of my jobs is to make sure people understand that the diversity that we need to have in our management and our teams has to come through action and not just, how do I put this? Early in my career, I remember there's a lot of people would come to me and say, why are we favoring the hiring of women right now into the tech? If you've got two people who are equally, one's male, one's female, wouldn't you want to take the best qualified candidate? And you have to educate those individuals because they're the ones who are going to be the leaders tomorrow, and explain to them why it's important to have that sort of opportunity to talk about why you can't just do that. There's been too many things in our past that have been a barrier to getting women into technology, and we have to make sure that we are educating ourselves on that history as well as how to now overcome that. And it's going to take action. That's going to take some bias the other direction to even the ship out. You can't have balance by not undoing the prior imbalance that existed. So for me, learning how to be an advocate for this, understanding that problem, spending a lot of time learning how to articulate that to people who may not understand that without being confrontational, and then helping them get through it, I think is the key to a company becoming successful, is having managers that will do that.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank the group for everything we've had shared in this conversation today. And I'd like to move over to the Q&A. So Lori, if you could give us a hand with that, that would be great.
That was so great, you guys. First of all, just say that was a really, really wonderful conversation. By far, the most popular question relates to some of what Jess was saying in terms of don't be afraid to ask for a mentor to be a mentor. But how do you go about identifying who might be a mentor? Like, how do you find them? That specifically, do any of you have some suggestions specifically about how do you approach or find a mentor?
I can give a couple of thoughts, and I'd love the rest of the panel to chime in. I would look at it in two ways. One side is there a person you look at work and just think, oh my gosh, they are great at, I don't know, their meetings are always really good and they're really good at dealing with conflict. I would like to know about that. There's your person to go and speak to. The other way to think about it is, I find that person really difficult to work with, or they seem to always think about things the complete opposite from me, and I can't understand it. And that's another way to look at mentoring. Like, go and talk to somebody who's got a very different approach or a different mindset, and use it as an opportunity to understand that. I think if you're looking for your first ever mentor, I would go on the first approach. Find somebody you think is great, or, you know, they don't need to be super senior. They just need to have a skill that you want to learn. Mentoring doesn't last forever. You might meet with them 3 times, learn something, move on. You might be in touch with them forever. Who knows? But you're not entering into a marriage with this person, and it's not till death do you part. If in the end the chemistry is weird and you're not getting something out of it, you can move on. So I would just say, just get stuck in and ask somebody.
Okay, awesome. I'm actually just going to try and zip through these last few because we've got 4 minutes before we wrap things up. And everybody can just shout this one out. Some of you spoke to community Slack channels that you should be a part of. I'm going to advocate for the Manitoba Women in Tech one that you should be definitely a part of. But what podcasts, what experts, what books, like, just give us, actually, if you could maybe spell that tool that you mentioned, Amber, for checking bias, or put it in the chat. Just give us a few recommendations that you feel are worthwhile for our audience to pay attention to. And jump in, Hailey. Feel free to answer too.
I will talk about
go ahead.
I will talk about a book that makes a lot of sense to me, and we can use in any career, not essentially on the tech side. It is Hard Things About Hard Things. It is a book that will help you understand, especially the imposter syndrome that we put ourselves every day, and how to trick or work with your brain when you doubt yourself. So
Can
again,
you say the title again? Say the title again.
I'll copy from, I think it's Hard Things About Hard Things.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Great.
so it is a way of learning how we can empower ourselves, even when we think we are not capable, because the only ones who's thinking that is not capable is only ourselves. Most of people know that we are capable, but so we keep fighting ourselves. So it's a very nice one to empower ourselves through hard things that we need to do.
Perfect. Anyone else want to throw out a real quick suggestion, recommendation?
So I put in the chat the tool's called Textio, and in terms of Slack communities, I'm a part of a few. There's for front end for React. There's also for mobile development in each discipline, Android. There's also for like iOS. There's ones for back end developers, DevOps. I'm sure if you just put a simple Google search, a lot of times you have to get approved from the board members of that Slack community. Also, it's also a great place if you're looking for a new career. They have a lot of those Slack channels have an area for you to say, I'm looking for work, or companies who are posting their jobs as well. And so it's not just like mentoring, it's almost like a full community that's able to support in all aspects of your career and where you want to go. So
fabulous. We're gonna leave some of these questions on the table, I'm afraid, because we're just gonna run out of time. But maybe we'll just sneak in one more really quick one in terms of staying organized. Do you have some favorite tools for helping you stay organized?
I'm a big fan of seeing what I'm working with at all times. So I'm a big personal note taker. I really enjoy, I have a Rocketbook notebook that allows myself to take notes with pen and paper, and to be able to make those notes immediately when they come to mind, and then scan them into my system to be able to add in across my other tools. My biggest piece of advice, though, would be to know your bandwidth, and to really take on projects appropriately. If you feel you're at risk of dropping the ball, odds are you're over that capacity level. So be mindful of how much you can achieve to the degree that you consider your best work, and be open and honest with your leadership about what that level of capacity is. If you feel you're at or reaching that capacity, take a beat, organize your projects in a tool like Trello or Asana and really see what you have on the table all at once and where that time is best spent. And then have that conversation with your manager if you're at or over capacity on how to redistribute or reallocate this work amongst a team.
Yeah, awesome. I'm going to have to end it there, and I'm sorry to do that because I'd love to hear more. I thought this was a really great dynamic, and people were flawless on their coming and going with their technology. So well done. Thank you. I want to remind everybody that was here today, please take just like 3 minutes to fill out the survey. We really would appreciate it, and we read everything that you write. And then I want to remind you that the next time that we get together is February 16th. It's an evening one. It's at 5 p.m. And our featured presenter is Mary Lobson, another woman who is just doing amazing things in our community. She's the founder and CEO of REES, R-E-E-S Technology Group. And she's going to share her story from startup to scale up, a female tech founder's journey. And this is an interesting journey because it also, Mary is actually making a significant positive difference in the world, because 1 in 3 women experience sexual violence, yet less than 5% is ever reported. And the tools that she and her team have developed is really making an impact in terms of options that make reporting easier and making campuses and public spaces safer. So don't miss that one. Keep in mind that it's an evening one. Put it in your calendar I think we might even have a link in chat. You could register right away so you don't miss out. And thank you so much, Skip the Dishes team. And Hailey, you were outstanding. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. And on behalf of Tech Manitoba, North Forge, New Media Manitoba, have a wonderful year.